I'd like to welcome everyone to the City Council Work Session Special Meeting of Tuesday, January 13th. Call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented and request that all presentations and discussions be conducted respectfully and in a manner mindful of everyone's time.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, just so everyone knows, our city reporter is on Zoom tonight, so she's not sitting over there. She has a sick child. And so she's home taking care, but also participating in our meeting. So first on the agenda, we have public comment. If you would like to make public comments, you keep it under 3 minutes, and please be kind and respectful. When you're called on, when you come up, state your name and mailing address. And you would like to go first. Tina?
Tina Vincent. 1190, that's what it's supposed to be doing. Sorry, I forgot about that. Hi, here I am again. When I took this job, I didn't expect to be speaking with you all this time, but here we go. I'm the Kansas Food Pantry, president of that board, and our board is forming an ad hoc committee. And we discussed this with Bruce at our meeting last week. And we'd like to invite a council member and someone from the State Public Works Committee, not committee, City Public Works, to aid in furthering continued communication as we work to find a temporary and a permanent solution for the pantry. And we're gonna try to have those meetings during the day, so it's not, we know everyone is meeting out, so it won't be a lunch, but it's just so we can have a communication thread through the upcoming things that are gonna be happening, whatever those end up being. As a board, we want to thank you for your support as we move through this next phase to work together as quickly and as smoothly, those words, as possible. We are an emergency agency and we are in an emergency situation. So helping our clients in crisis with love and compassion is our mission and our commitment. And I feel that commitment from the community. I feel that commitment from the council as well, and basically everybody that talks to us. So we appreciate that. Last week, just for fun, we served 61 families and that was 188 people. So 61 cars in your apartment. Well, 55 maybe cars because people join up together. But look forward to the presentations that are happening later this afternoon for this evening and we'll be here for anything that has one.
Thank you. Next. We're gonna have to talk a little bit about her.
Okay, I'm Nancy Clausen, and I'm the president of the board of the Chamber of Commerce. Since our contract was on your agenda this evening, I wanted to have an opportunity to come and talk a bit about us. We all know that the primary industry in Cannon Beach is tourism. As a Chamber of Commerce, our primary responsibility is to support that industry and the city of Cannon Beach. We very much appreciate the council taking the time and the interest in providing monetary support for us. Our funding base is our members and the city. So you're very important to us, obviously. We are stretching every dollar we receive as far as we possibly can to have the greatest possible interface and effect on the industry and the city. The harder we work, the better we do to promote tourism, the smaller the dollar percent becomes. So we would like to have as much support as possible from you. We not only depend on the city for tourism dollars, but also the support of the staff and the council. In that light, Jim is here to, are you going to speak this evening, Jim?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Jim Hyman, the director, and he's going to present funding needs and our current budget, et cetera. We're pleased to fill you in on the specifics of our departments. income and expenses as you request. And thank you again for the opportunity to appear. We look forward to a continuation of a powerful, nurturing and respectful relationship with the council and the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Michelle?
Prepared thing, look up some terrible one. So I'm assuming that all of you have gotten name, oh, sorry, Michelle Allegro, PO Box 719. Have probably gotten information, emails talking about how you cannot hear anything that's going on in this room via like Zoom or YouTube watching it back, so it's almost impossible to hear what's going on, and it's super problematic. So, and it happens, I get a text every time I was in DRB, like, I can't hear, so if somebody, I know you can fix the podium here, Bruce, but maybe the sound, cause it's, I can't tell what's going on, and I like, it's hard to concentrate and get information and when you're struggling to listen, so if you could do that, that'd be great. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Next. Did everybody hear that? Anybody else in the audience? Is there anybody on Zoom? No? Okay, thanks, everyone. So now we will move on to our discussion items. First is the Tourism and Arts Commission recommendation to council. Bruce, you want to introduce?
Yes,
Please.
at their December 15th meeting, but I'm sorry, I'm going to Mark.
Mark's gonna come up. Yeah, come on up, Mark.
Go ahead, Mark, I'm sorry, I was
Okay.
the second item.
So we presented to the Tourism Arts Commission, the fire district did, back in December. We're trying to replace the lifeguard towers, as we've talked a little about, about $160,000. We, through grants, the fire district through grants, donations, et cetera, have raised, just over $100,000 of that. And so we came to Tourism Arts, looking for the other 60,000. To finish this project, to have the new lifeguard towers on the beach, by the summer. The lifeguard program is the tourism. I mean, that's what the lifeguards do. There was a lot of conversation and asked about, numbers and percentage of tourism interaction. I couldn't just straight face say, you know, we do 95% of tourism. I can talk to lifeguards and they'll tell you it's almost 100%, but it isn't something we track. So for me to put it in writing and say, this is the statistics, I don't have it, because that's not something we've tracked of how many times on the beach when the lifeguards interact with people on the beach, is it visitors? But they'll tell me it's 100% visitors, but it's not something we can track. So I couldn't put that statistic, but it is tourism, and I think we all know that. And so that was the driving of this. The lifeguard towers, they stay on the beach. They are moved from where they are during the summer to down by the school, in the winter. So they're in a way, I guess I look at it as they're kind of fixed facility. They stay on the beach. Yes, they get moved because of weather, but they're still there. These are towers that are built to withstand the climate. They're built in the eastern United States or Florida, South Carolina. They stand out there through hurricanes. They're meant to be through the weather. And so we'll move them up where the other one is there at school to get it away from tideline on the off season, but they're made to withstand weather. The other one was 40 years old, and definitely sees its age. These are made to withstand 25, 30 years of these conditions.
You're moving one of them up north and first.
Yeah, so the plan is to go to a 2-tower system. right now, I mean, we have one extremely long, tall tower. They'll go to two shorter towers. So they don't have to see as far. One will be, kind of Gowan area and one will be Tollbahn.
One of the things I liked about where it was before, the old one, is that if somebody was climbing on a rock during nesting season, the lifeguards would, say something or bullhorn them or let somebody know. So will they still be able to see the rock?
They'll still be, oh yeah, they'll definitely be able to see the rock.
Oh, okay.
And also, we have the, guards that are patrolling, and so they are also patrolling, and will see it, from vehicles. So, but yes, absolutely, they'll be able to see both sides of the rock. One from Tollbahn side, and one from Gowan side.
And if you have the necessary funding, they'll be available this year. I mean, this coming season.
Yes,
We have 100, 60 more,
So-
that's recommended.
So I have a question or something that made me feel a little uncomfortable about the whole thing. There's zero doubt that it's tourists that are being educated or being told stuff. Something that is in the Oregon State Legislature is, it's tourism promotion or tourism infrastructure. And promotion is described, as advertising, publicizing, or distributing information for the purpose of attracting and welcoming tourists. So welcoming tourists with information is what the lifeguards are doing.
Yeah.
Welcoming, telling them how it's safe and all that stuff. The towers are naturally gathering places. People go there to stuff. Get information, whether it's safe to go there. I know when I travel, I see the lifeguard tower and that's where you go. And
Yeah.
say, hey, is it safe to go swimming right here? The thing that would make me feel more comfortable with that being cited as the reason why we fund it is I know the lifeguards have the developed brochure, for guides and stuff like that. But having possibly some signage attached to the towers that has like, this is rip current, like you're not gonna have brochures out of the way. And then an education plan developed with the lifeguards. The COA would teach lifeguards and say, look, this is the written plan of how we're gonna teach lifeguards how to educate the public on blah, blah, blah.
and he has that because we had to do that for the USLA, certification. So he has a whole, education plan for them,
Okay.
that was implemented last year.
For the public
For the
education.
public education side of it, because that's was part of the USLA,
Okay.
certification, was to have that developed. As far as signage out there, yeah, I think that's something we talked to Bill about. Hey, we have, and we talked about quite a bit this last year about updating signage and stuff, and we've worked on some of it, but I think that's a great, thing.
That would be.
Once we have them, this thing, we put on there for more education.
Yeah, cause it's, as long as fits that narrow.
Yep.
The narrow definition of tourism promotion, distributing information for the purpose of attracting and welcoming tourists.
So rather than saying the structure.
Yeah, I mean, we're running construction, I watched the PAC meeting, there's a lot of discussion about whether it's picture, it's included, it's a real property, but it's clearly the structures themselves provide a location for education to take place.
But it's a little more reliable on the side, the education part.
And apparently,
It's
there's a
because. of the-
real
the movement.
structure movement
Right.
situation, yeah.
Other questions? Here?
I have questions.
Oh, yeah, okay. So this will come before us for a vote at the February 3rd meeting, if there's no other questions. You are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next we have the Tourism and Arts Commission, Public Art.
The results of the 2407, which expanded the Tourism and Art Commission's purview, the commission is prepared to draft. The commission is prepared to draft public art policy for council's review and consideration. The public art policy is made up of guidelines for the purchasing and procurement of public art. It is not the annual criteria. Specific criterion and additional details will be included in the call for art. And TAC representatives are available to answer questions and provide additional input. Tom, you want to come?
So many years back, we had a public arts committee and I was part of that. So barely remember it, but I was part of it and it was great to read your policy because I think it addressed kind of the procedure that we followed a long time ago when we got the famous orange bench and all of the other things. So except for a couple of little, grammatical things, I thought the policy was very well thought out.
Thank you. Thank you, yeah. Kind of what inspired this was the realization that, we couldn't find a specific policy.
Right.
As we started going through.
It was so long ago, we didn't have to have policies.
Yeah.
We just did it.
You just did it, and they probably worked out good. A couple of things that I'll point out, just so you understand a little bit of what the thinking was that went into this, and then, address any questions you have. The words guidelines and preference were chosen carefully. Because, that's what the intention of this is. It's if you remember in Pirates of the Caribbean, they talk about the Pirates Code and they go, it's more of a guideline, and that's sort of the feeling that we want to have with this thing. And when we talk about preference, we want to make sure that that's word is used exactly like that. It's not to be exclusive of anything. So, well, we have a Steve Jensen piece already that the city owns, and he's a Seattle artist, and so I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't have another Seattle artist if it fit the rest of this. But we also want to be supportive of the artists in Clatsop and Tillamook County. We had originally said the North Oregon coast, but we were asked to define that a little more clearly, so that's what we did. Probably diversified, and again, things that represent our area. Functional, we've had some debate whether that makes sense or not, especially in light of things like bike racks. My personal opinion with bike racks are ugly, and it'd be nice to do something to make one look a little bit better, but that's, anyways, that's sort of the idea of when we talk about things that are functional. So that's what's going on there. I think the process is pretty straightforward. The Tourism and Arts Commission will be responsible for putting together a proposal. And then that proposal just gets presented to you. And if we say, yeah, that looks good, then we'll go ahead and put the word out to the art community to let them know that this is what we're looking for. And we have some guidelines there, again, guidelines that we have people look at. We also realized when we put this in here that we need to get together with some other departments in the city, public works and that sort of thing, so that we can be aware of any requirements for installation. We might need a cement pad or something like that put in, and then also any ongoing maintenance requirements that the police might need. Make sure that we're on board with all of that. Once we get the proposals from the artists, we want to get some public input from that. So, but we also, if we get 30 different proposals, putting 30 different suggestions out there for public comment could be a bit cumbersome. So what we're going to do first is the Tourism and Arts Commission will narrow that down to the top 3 that we vote on. And we'll do that with input from people who are knowledgeable, but also don't have a vested interest in it. So, if there's a gallery owner who wants to come in and give us their opinion, but they don't have an artist that they're representing, that's perfectly fine. That's what they're looking for. So we'll go through that and put those 3 out for public comment. We want to get comments from residents as well as tourists that come in. And then once we get those comments and get all that information together, we'll narrow that down to one, and that's what we'll present to you, with the recommendation for the purchase for that, and then it's up to you to decide if you want to do. So that's pretty much the process, and that's in general what this stands out. Any questions?
Well thought out.
I guess I'm still unclear about, so Tourism and Arts Commission is going to determine where to put a piece of art. And then I'm not sure about that first part of the process, where the process actually starts.
Okay, yes, the Tourism and Arts Commission will make the recommendation as to where it will go. We're not gonna make the final determination, but we'll make the recommendation, so we'll sit down and say, yeah, we feel like we should get this part here. Now, we also wanna get input from the community at large, and we will solicit that input. So if somebody comes to us and they say, yeah, well, I think we need to have an art piece at such and such a location, that this is the reason why, then we'll certainly take that into consideration. We're not the exclusive owners of that process.
And so are you looking at this being a program, like an annual program, or just on whim, or is there a certain amount of budget that you're looking at public art? I'm just, I think of the Tourism and Arts Commission as representing a whole bunch of things, including parks and trails, and we can use the money for those kinds of things. So where does this art component fit within that greater concept of tourism and arts? It's also funding the whole event thing and whatever might else come up as far as grants, but because I'm trying to wrap my head around what portion of tourism and arts is the art, public art program.
Isn't there a line item right now? in
Yes.
The budget, I
Yes.
wanna say 50.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, as part of the money,
Yeah,
And this is just their policy.
so is that what we're talking
on
about?
Purchasing the art, yeah, this is just the art.
We're not talking about the tourism and arts fund, we're talking about public
yeah,
art.
I mean, where the funding would come from, I mean, that's not written in the policies where the funding's gonna come from, but there is a line item in the city budget. Yeah, I think it is 50,000, as I recall, having looked at it, for the purchase of public art. And then also there's an opportunity for the Tourism and Arts Commission to take a look at funds that they have and say, yeah, okay, we want to contribute to that as well. Maybe not be the sole source of it, but be contributors. In the same way that we're contributing to this, the lifeguard stance, that same kind of concept. Where it fits in is, the art helps create the identity of Cannon Beach as a place for tourists to come to. And, I'd love to sit down and say that there's gonna be a large number of people who come charging into Cannon Beach and pull out the art map and go walking through. That's not gonna happen, but still, the
I
fact
think
that
we
we're
all
here.
agree that that's part of the identity.
Pardon?
I think we all agree that art is part of the identity.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've got, New City Hall, I think there's a space for something.
Yeah.
I think coming up with Cruise, there's a space for something, so I guess. Trying to think of how these things weave together and how they go through the, Tourism and Arts Commission, and is this process, where you're recommending a location and a piece of art, and that gets approved first, and then you go out and get the artist's submissions, or?
Well, yes, I think location and a broad general description of what the art piece would be would probably go together. And so, you talk about the new city hall, I mean, that's certainly something we've talked about and looked at, but, so if you go inside the city hall and you're recommending a piece, it's probably going to be a painting or mural or something along that line. But if you go outside, then it might become functional. We talked about, I mentioned bike racks, we talked about bike rack over there and having it an artistic piece, so that's a possibility. So, the nature of the piece is probably gonna depend somewhat on the location, but that'll all be part of the initial recommendation.
But this document sets the policy on how you're going to navigate through those, and it actually is very well written.
Yeah, it is. Very well.
So, nice job, thank you.
I did have one question, I completely agree, it's very comprehensive and everything, though I had a question about step 4, in the procedures here, once the artist has submitted the proposal, tax shall be determined by a majority vote, top 3. When selecting the top 3, tap may request input from local experts. I was just curious how a local expert gets determined, if that sort of language would, I'm not sure how that will be determined in like a clear public way, that somebody that has expertise is being relied upon for stuff being chosen by people in a non-public fashion, I guess, is kind of.
Gallery owners, it says is one example.
Well, how do you choose which gallery?
Well-
That was the non-public.
Yeah,
Kind
so,
of
so the
iffy
thought
stuff,
process
so-
in there is, again, we're looking for public input. So I don't know that we would sit down and say, oh, well, we want that particular gallery owner to come in. I think what we do is we put it out there and say, any gallery owner who wants to come in and comment on it, provided the piece you're commenting on is not an artist that you represent.
And that would be held at a public meeting of.
That would be held at a public meeting,
Right.
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that was just my concern of like a closed door decision of who is the expert that's being relied upon sort of thing. That was the only concern. Otherwise, I thought this is very comprehensive and pretty much covers everything, like lays out a good framework for how public art can actually start. We can go back to getting new public art in King Beach, opposed to the last 15-20 years, where we haven't had new art installation.
So maybe in item number 4, you could put a sentence about this would all be.
Interested.
Public meeting,
Or
public meeting.
Of course, interested parties, or,
Right.
yeah, we're just that we're interested to take care of it. So I'm just really curious, did you sit down as a committee and come up with this policy from scratch?
Pretty much.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's gone through a lot of iterations. It basically started out as less than a 1-page outline and expanded from there.
And Ashley was
It has been.
was definitely involved. Yeah, I listened to those meetings. Our Jody, our new city attorney, they have her hand up.
I just had one, I think Gary was touching on it. In one of the iterations of this, I thought I put in something about how I thought it'd be good to put in a process for submitting a request for art installation at a specific spot. I don't know if there's any value in that. So it would sort of be a preset to the purchasing question. So it would be, here's how a member of the public could submit a request for public art installation, or here's how council does. It was a comment in one of the iterations, I thought, but maybe I didn't actually put it to paper. So I just wanted to bring that up just in case that's something that council wanted to consider now instead of amending it later, but just that.
Thank you, Jody. Probably wouldn't hurt to have something in there about that process, because we definitely need to involve city staff, public works and parks and committees, and later on, right, policy.
I guess that's kind of where I was going, and it just seemed like it's a great policy, and, the whole process is spelled out, except for there's kind of, I can see going through this whole process, and, and you looked at different artists' work and selected some artists' work, and then it comes to us for a vote, and it's not aligned with priorities, other community priorities.
But is there, they have a budget line item, so what do you mean? I don't think so. So, I get it. Not along with what? When you say priorities, do you mean budget priorities or just
No, just,
values of our community?
what we think of are, the, desirable places to have art at this point. I mentioned a couple of them, City Hall, Santa Cruz. So I would think that those are some coming priorities.
Yeah, I guess I would assume that the committee recognize that and make those determinations.
So I think
mean, I-
that that's exactly what I was saying, Gary. I think I saw this same gap that you did. I just forgot to put a comment in, so I apologize. I'll take the hit on that. There's something missing between when TAC decides to start the process of making their proposal to council and who decides that this is necessary. If that needs to be council who says, we would like some art at City Hall, TAC, please come up with a proposal, then maybe we should add something there for that. Or if a member of the public says, I would like to have some artwork on this specific spot near a city park, how would they submit that request? Would it go through council? Does it go directly to TAC? I might be in the weeds, but I saw the same thing I think Gary saw, which is how do we prevent TAC from going through all this process and then just being like, well, we didn't ask for this. Just sort of getting everybody on board at the front end.
If they're given a budget, if there's a budget for public art and they're a committee that's one of their tasks is to commission public art and suggest places for public art. To me, that's in their purview to do that. I don't like the idea of anybody just saying, going and saying, I don't think the council, it makes the ultimate decision, sure, but I think that the TAC committee that's why they're on that committee. Because they have the ability to do it.
Sure.
I think that's way too fussy, I do, but.
I can understand, it seems like there's, step one seems like it's, how does it get started? But to that same point though, or what Jody was bringing up, in the proposed purchase process, step one, it lines out specifically that the art purchase proposal shall include at a minimum the following, and it lists location as one of the things to be listed. So that initial proposal coming from TAC, I don't know how that proposal gets started, but that initial proposal, when it comes from TAC to council to decide whether or not they're gonna go forward, it has a location, a theme for the art, it has those concerns kind of lined out, but I agree with how does step one get initiated? Is it the council said, hey, TAC, we want a piece of art at the city hall, so you fill that number one, and then you guys fill in.
There is some kind of approval process
Julie,
before it gets into this, we will talking to artists.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that, what's the spark that gets the fuse lit? It's really the council, at least that's kind of what I'm hearing. And it seems to me that, TAC could be the people who initiate it. A member of the public could come up and come to one of our meetings, and we have openings, and they come to our meeting and they say, hey, I think we ought to have a piece of art so-and-so, and we talk about it, yeah, that makes sense, we'll propose that to council. Council can come to us and say, hey, we think we need a piece of art in the new police station. You've got, come up with something for us, and then, we can do that, so. I think that spark can come from just about any place, and we talked about it, and we could we could probably put language in here that says that specifically.
Yeah, that's the part I just wanted to clarify.
You could just say spark from any place.
I can throw one out there.
How does a part anybody fill out?
Let me throw one out there real quick. Signs for the city.
Welcome.
Well, we have each, yeah. Well, we've had a lot of conversation about that too, and we'll continue to focus that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that that's good enough, just that it comes, you know, anybody can make a suggestion and you guys decide if it's, you know, if it's doable or valid or good idea, is that your
If I'm-
job.
if I can make one, sorry. My only suggestion is like a one sentence up, maybe even in the first section where it talks about purpose. Literally, it would just say all requests for public art installation go through TAG. Like that would solve it. So that if council gets a request, they can just forward it along. And if members of the public need somewhere to go, they know where to go. So that's my suggestion.
That's all that.
Okay.
Good, then I'm done. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Or should I say,
Thanks, yeah. Yes.
Okay, so Jody, you wanna write that one sentence and tell us where to put it? Thank you. Is there anything else?
Thanks for entertaining my questions.
Okay. You're gonna. Okay, next we have the Candy Pantry. Bruce?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, we have Jennifer Beatty from CETA on the line to ask questions. As you're aware, a decision was made to minimize the occupation of the existing food pantry earlier this month. The expedited resolution, follow-up decision was made to work with CETA, that was under contract with the city, to look at options to address the situation in an expedited manner. The preliminary review indicated the most sufficient option was to move the food pantry to another location on site or in another location. One obvious choice is a classroom building. Seismic refits have been completed and it's located on the same site as the food pantry. However, there seems to be a strong sentiment among some of the counselors that the classrooms be removed as part of the medium-term project. Even if we were to implement the simplest solution, which is to bring a new modular in, it could be a year before it's in place because of the time to build out the unit and get through the city's regulatory process. It begs the question of whether there is a sentiment to consider the classrooms at all. It's been a little over a week since the decision was made to limit the exposure of the food pantry to workers in the condition of the modular. And staff just wants to make sure that the council, that the classrooms are a viable alternative for temporary food bank relocation if that turns out to be the best situation.
You know, before we even, I like what food pantry is like. And that to me would be the best, that really informed my decision on what they think would work best for them.
We met, last night as a board and went through the proposals, went back through years of things that we have spoke on and dreamed about or looked forward to, being in a different facility. I've been board president for 5-ish years now, I think, and started about 6-7 years ago. But this is long before me, that building has been a temporary solution since the day they walked in. So in the course of, and we are grateful for that building. And we are grateful for your support. But in the course of waiting for what else was gonna happen down there and on that property, that building has slowly rotted away. And there wasn't a lot to do about it because we were waiting to see what happens right now, as I said before, we are an emergency organization in an emergency situation. The water is coming into the building and there isn't any way to fix it. The roof is mush and they can't, nobody will even go up there to fix it. And Trevor said there's nowhere to even nail anything to. So my first concern, our first concern as a board is to continue our feeding people on Wednesdays. My second concern, you know, just a second, close second, is the health and safety of my volunteers. So I don't see us being able to, we're not gonna be able to stay in that building for very long.
know that.
We gotta get out of it. So as a board, we met, we went, with Chris and Trevor into the classrooms. And we could set up there. We could set up there as a temporary location. It doesn't have running water, it doesn't have the appropriate electricity, and those things could happen. We can operate without running water. We can operate with a porta potties. We've went through all of that with regional. So we're not breaking any laws. We'll have to adjust some of the things that we hand out to our clients, but we won't have to stop 95% of what we do. It'll be a little rough for a while, but you know, I mean, it has a roof. The roof isn't gonna fall in on us, and it's ventilated, so there isn't chemicals in there that are going to be of danger to my volunteers. Which neither one of those things are true in the building that we're in at this appropriate time, or at this time. Our long-term goal is to be at that location, which I think we've received great feedback from all of you that that's where you hope to have us stay. Now, in what building, I don't know. The classrooms seem like a great alternative if you were gonna keep that building, because there's already been money put into that building. But we can be in there temporarily, but we can't be in there while you're fixing it to make it for us. Because then everything's dirty and, you know, and so we can't be there. We can be in there while the building that we're in now gets rebuilt. Hopefully with a lot of communication with us. And then move back, and then whatever is gonna happen to the rest of that property isn't tied to us. Because again, we're not political, we're service. And, that has been our destiny for the past so many years, is that we're tied to that Inclusive project. Our location. I'd like to, I don't think that can be separated, but I'd like to at least separate that in a service thought, that we're thinking of service and emergencies and quickly. And I know nothing gets built fast, but this is kind of when I was in high school, our secretary said, sorry, I got it. You're not getting things done is not my emergency. You know, your procrastination is not my emergency. Well, it is, because this has been not a procrastination thing, it's just been something that's taken a long time, and now it is my emergency.
Right.
So anything, we need to get out of the building we're in to a temporary location. We can't be up in the air. We can't be, too far from that location, if at all possible. So that's what we as a board would like. Is to stay where we are, but realizing we have to shift around to make things happen for us to have a permanent location.
If you were in there temporarily, wow, the the new building was being put together, whatever it is, you wouldn't have any refrigeration, would you?
Yes, we would just move everything out of the building that we're in over to those classroom spaces.
It's wired.
It would have to be, we spoke with Chris that you would just I'm not an electrician, but you would move the electric service over from the building that we're in. And it can be, we don't have, commercial refrigerators, we just have everybody's garage refrigerator. I mean, we have 7, 8 of those, they all have names, Gertie's about, she's on her last leg, but, it was easier to put names on, instead of saying refrigerator number 9. So those don't take huge amounts of, we ran it on that one generator, that's all we needed when we lost power. It's been a progression of things, and I was in track of all the emergency things lately. So I don't think, it's not like we need the whole thing rewired. As what we were told by the city. So
could manage there while we're waiting for the other.
we could manage there, yes, yeah.
I think it's important also to point out that our clients do not go in the building.
No,
It's just the volunteers.
yeah, we take their orders and then we take it out to their cars. They load their cars and then they keep going in our circle.
Your preference is to move into a temporary location while a more permanent location is being put in place, which Bruce, you said that would take a year?
It would take a year to put a new modular.
Okay. But in the meantime, you have a place to be.
Right, and it would be. I would hope I would hope that we could, I know things take a long time, but that we could do. Everything we could to look at this as an emergency project, like, City Hall got mown down last week and now we need to rebuild a new one, that's basically what happened to us. So, yes, but we really don't have a choice, I don't have a choice, you can't say, put me here, because even if I personally had $4 million and wanted to build this thing, there isn't anywhere to do that in this town that's accessible to our clients. And not causing havoc in the traffic patterns of the town. 55 cars on 4th of July week. You don't want that anywhere in the circle of town, so. And there we have enough space that we can, when there's 14, 15 cars in the circle, they're not out on the street, they're in the circle of the parking lot. So we don't really park there, but we use it for distribution.
Okay.
So my hope would be that we would get this done as quickly as possible. I know I'm got my dream hat on right now, but it's not a vanity project. It's a crisis situation.
So I guess the question is for Jennifer. Are there, what would it take? Or are there issues with it becoming a temporary location for the food pantry now?
Great, and I do want to, hopefully froze for a second. I do want to clarify one thing when I get into your question, is that we had a typo in our memo, and I want to make sure that I get that cleared up before I start my conversation. We talked about the existing food bank being 905 square feet. It's actually around 1905, 1910. So we dropped a 1, and I really apologize for that because that can add some confusion to what the discussion. But one of the things about using this as a temporary facility is that site is already approved for having the food bank on it. So we wouldn't be subject to going through an additional planning reviews to accomplish that. So that's something that really is beneficial to having it be a temporary relocation. And then as far as from a seismic standpoint, it's already been seismically, the roof has been upgraded. But when we're looking at going from a classroom to M or B, which is mercantile or business or storage, it's all equal or lesser. So we would have no seismic upgrades. So that's really spectacular. The mechanical and the electrical are both at the end of their useful life based on the report we did at the initiating of CBE. I'm sure that they haven't gotten better. They haven't repaired themselves, but they were operational when we started that project, so that they should be operational now. Now we would want to verify that the load on electrical.
Slower. I'm sorry.
Oh, Jennifer, slow down a little slower.
Sorry, sir. Sorry.
You're loud, but way too fast.
It's a habit. I'm sorry. I will try to slow down. The electrical will need to look at the refrigeration units and if the panels can take what they have now, based on we would only be using a portion of the building, or if we would need to bring that electrical service over. That would be something we would explore and be able to define. And I think part of that is there's very little, if we look at this as a temporary basis, they could go in the eastern bays or the western bays. They're about 1,800 square feet, so they're pretty close to what they are using now, but probably an easier use because it's square and open. So we could put them in either one of them, depending on how Cannon Beach wanted to use the other spaces, or if, when it comes to demo, what's easiest to move them out. So those are some, overall, I think it's a really quick solution to a problem. We think we can get in and have them operational within months and not taking, we were projecting about 13 months to find a new unit. They still have to get displaced, put them there, or if they went to a new location, they still need a temporary location until they can get to a new location. And that's not much of our time. That's mostly process, just the going through the process to get that and the purchase order.
Any thought or appetite for considering whether it can be a permanent location, the classroom, or a portion of the classrooms?
Well, I think the issue with that is that, the sewer lines, they're gonna have to, I mean, we would be displaced again.
Yeah,
So we move over there.
I got that. It's like,
Yeah.
well, we need two temporary locations.
And there isn't-
The realization.
If we located, depending on where we located and where we did the toilet rooms in the future, I think that there's a way to displace them very little. One thing I represented on the document, the exhibit A, shows a green and a purple, and we gave that option because they're both the same amount of square footage, and they could occupy either. So if you look at a long term, we might have a different suggestion where they land versus if we look at a short term. And that would be something that we would want to understand if we could understand what their process would be. Because if it's permanent, they probably need new finishes and some other things beyond just moving them in. If it's temporary, emergency, we just move them in with the finishes that are there.
And in theory, putting them in the classrooms, and if we could put them in the classrooms on a permanent basis, temporary for now, but on a permanent basis for later, it's probably going to cost less money than putting in modular.
Don't know, there's no number.
Maybe,
Because we don't know what even.
We have no idea temporary. I mean, I could know that,
Yeah,
relative cost.
It seems like we do need to look at some, different cost options. I mean, do we know how much? It seemed like there were some of the same sewer issues in the current location, if we were to go in and replace the current modular. We face some of the same issues, don't we, as far as, plumbing and electrical?
Yes.
Upgrade.
So I guess we really need to wrap our head around, what that would look like.
But,
For,
well, I was gonna say, but for now, for right now, we've got to get them into a temporary location. So for right now, I think we need to, say that we're going to approve the temporary relocation to the classrooms, because there's nowhere else for them to be.
yeah, I got no problem.
And then we can figure out the long-term, whether it's gonna be a new modular, or whether they're gonna fix up that classroom building to make it work.
And put down another.
And how
temporary
much
location.
would it cost?
but Jennifer just said, so if we put them in a temporary location, we put you in the temporary location that wouldn't be the permanent location in the classrooms.
Right.
There would be much less displacement, right? They would be able to stay while the other construction was happening. And then they could just kind of slide everything next door.
I don't know, that's like, what's the other temporary location?
I think because there's two potential locations within the classrooms is what that comment is
Slide.
first temporary would be the middle, and then they would move over final finishes.
From when-
Okay, that was the question for Jennifer. Is, how realistic would that be, or cost effective? to, are you thinking essentially removing part of the building then?
We don't know.
I think that's what the comment was based on. I think that's what her comment's based on, is the move to the center, potentially do the finishes, final finishes in the left or the west. They would then move again to the west and demo. I think that's what her comment
Or
was.
maybe
getting at.
That sounds like, give it like the whole building is yeah,
Yeah, I don't need the whole building, but,
Or possibly have a classroom available for use, you know, who knows, there's a lot of different options. Just that we don't know how much each one costs and, you know, but I think right now, regardless of any of that, they've gotta go into the
I think
school.
putting them in the classroom that wouldn't be the one we would put them in if we were gonna use one of them as permanent. Would be the way to go.
After we get all the options, cost options and things. Yeah.
And because I think,
Have input from, does it matter to you which, if you're in the east or the west? Is it, which works better for you? For temporary?
as myself, just saying this without consulting the rest of my board, I would think that the west end would be where we would, if we were gonna end up somewhere, that the west end of the building would be where we wanna end up, because that's the closest, that gives us the most, circular motion in our parking lot. If we were going to be temporary in one location and eventually move to the other end, then obviously the temporary one would be the east end.
Yeah.
So that you could fix the west end, but I don't know if that's at all possible to fix it while we're in there. The art division, honestly, I was pretty impressed with the, I mean, it's a really rough space, but I was pretty impressed with it when I walked into it, and that'll tell you a lot about where we are right now. I was happy when I walked in there, and I have a bit of a building background. I understand some things. I've never built anything commercially or in a city, but I understand like, oh, okay, this skeleton here that I have is okay. We could make this work. When I found out we didn't have to have hot running water to go in there. But if we could not take months for us to get into a temporary location, that would be great.
So my gut tells me the same that you all are speaking, is that if they are temporary, it doesn't really matter which one they go, right? In the end, they move back out. If they may end up there more for a longer period of time, so permanent or a longer period that we want to keep them there, I would say they go on the east side. That way you could repurpose the west side, fix it to all their needs and move them over so that they would be able to be there continuously and not. Because I do agree that the furthest west makes the most sense for me as to where they would land.
Okay.
If we were entertaining a permanent, if we're entertaining temporary, I actually don't, I don't think it matters.
I guess I just wonder what that looks like in the eventual park design, and obviously it's a park designer's job, but I was hoping that we would solve, that we wouldn't be forcing people down Spruce Street to go to the park, the future park.
Oh, you mean if the
Well, not having not actually put it out to two parts, it's still not unreasonable, it wouldn't be unreasonable for half that building to be demoed and that still become the parking area potentially with the western classroom still existing and stuff. I think a park designer could work around that, so I think putting allowing them to move into the center, the eastern classroom gives the most flexibility for our next agenda item, the RFP. First, you come in and propose something, it could be temporary, or it could be a permanent there, or it's going to be a portion. I don't know how long any of that's gonna take out of because if it's waiting to decide if it's permanent and temporary until after the design process for ECUS, and then it comes out to this temporary,
Yeah.
then we're starting from scratch then, at that point, on deciding what to do.
I had envisioned, traffic coming in, from the east side. And circling around, and then exiting on the west side, where they would, essentially be doing a pickup, and, so I don't know, I don't wrap my head around, what space makes sense, but.
I just think right now, for me, the priority is getting them into a temporary location.
I think we all agree that.
Before, and not worrying about the park until after they're in it. I don't think we can.
I think we all agree now of what the decision does need to be made is where they're going to go in there.
The east side was what I heard.
And what's the
as
worst thing that
sensible
could happen? We
place.
get you in there
Worst thing that could happen is we have,
and we get you in there and we decide we're gonna keep the west end or the east end that you're in. Everybody town gets together, we move you to the other side so they can do. I mean, it would suck, for lack of a better word, for everybody, but that's an option also, right?
Yeah, we'd be making a decision now where it's
Right.
going
I
to
don't
be
think
the
we're gonna-
eventual park plan, which.
And we're not gonna have that decision now, but if you're in a building, does it have a partition in the middle or is it actual wall? So it's a partition that opens.
No, it has walls.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, it has actual walls. There's 4 classrooms. And honestly, I mean, the park designer, once you retain them, may have a vision that's completely different than all the ones we're discussing right now. And there may be an opportunity that they need to move again. And I think I don't think I would recommend you don't hand tie them. They get to make that, they help you work through that. So I really think that you probably can't go wrong for a temporary location. I think without knowing what the park designer is doing, you will have an opportunity to go through a process of if you're going to replace the building, you could do that during that process too. So I think if they go on the east and they end up keeping a portion of that portion of the west, I think that's fine. I think that's one move. I don't think you can go wrong. I think you no matter what decision you make today, there may be an adjustment once you know what the park design looks like.
Just don't want them to have to move to another temporary location.
Can I consult with anything else I'm not saying that? Okay, not supposed to do that probably, but I care about my work. So we're nothing but a bunch of volunteers and we can do hard things. We've done hard things. We've sat with little flashlights on our heads. We were out of power. We can do a lot of hard stuff. So, but respectfully, and another nice word I can't come up with right now. I really, really don't. I want us to just think about not tying us to every move that happens with this ongoing project. I realize we're in an emergency situation right now. And I know how it is laid out is important to the entire community, but just try to view us as a service operation, not a public parks operation or a political organization, because we're gonna get I don't want us to get bogged down
they're an
anymore.
integral part of our community.
Well,
And thank you for
our
everything.
clients, thank you, our clients are an integral part of this community, and they are our first priority, our very first priority.
And if I may speak as a food pantry board member right this moment, our goal is to not miss a week of service of feeding our community.
Again, you have any questions, please ask.
So what's it gonna
Hey,
take to keep in there?
What's gonna take? Little electricity.
Yeah, I'd like to bring that up. What, we would like to do.
I believe
Go ahead.
Well, I believe Jody was gonna weigh in on how you can contractually, like the limits to how you could bring a contractor on board. I think she was gonna look into some items to that, which might help you guys understand the next step.
Sure. Go ahead, Jody.
First, I want to use you folks and your subs for design. so that we can give a set of plans to somebody to do what they're gonna do.
Well, how much is this gonna cost, just out of curiosity?
I don't know at this point.
Can we-
I don't know
Could we
what has
have,
to be fixed.
could we have Jody speak first, so we don't violate.
Sure, so I can't speak to costs, I don't know, I don't know, what I don't know. They're currently, CETA is currently under contract, and the services that they'd be providing for this temporary location falls within the scope of that contract. So you can just use their old contract, that's not a problem. If council wants to also use, Bremic, I think that's what they're called. Okay. That would eliminate the burden, quote unquote, of having to also go procure construction services. The thresholds for construction changed, I think it was last year. Theoretically, if the construction's gonna cost less than 25,000, you can just hire a contractor directly. Anything between 25,000 and 100,000, I believe you have to get quotes. And then if, God forbid, this costs more than $100,000, you would have to publicly procure that through a competitive solicitation. So I don't imagine that this will be less than $25,000 because I can't even remodel my bathroom for 25,000. But in the event that it does cost less than 25,000, you could theoretically go hire a different contractor. But if it's anything else, you'd have to deal with a solicitation, and I know I'm getting into the weeds here, but in the event that it's more than 50,000, you're gonna have to deal with prevailing wages and all these other pieces of a procurement that would come into play if you had to go resolicit it. So knowing that this might not be super popular, I still think that fastest and time-sensitive option for construction and for design is to just temporarily use CETA and Bremic to fix this. And then we'll move on with the new RFP coinciding with that to find a new design team, construction manager, all the things. But for this piece, you already have them all under contract. You can move tomorrow. That's my recommendation.
So I'm confused, I thought we were told really the only thing that's wrong is electrical. In this, in the classroom, in terms of being able to occupy it as a temporary space, potentially not wrong, but that would be the only sticking point.
Still
We
might
have-
need some.
I've heard that there's some door hardware that would need to be, so some carpentry piece too. But small compared to the electrical.
Right now, my understanding is, Jennifer, that there is no heating in that building. And I believe because of the perishable food, anything in there, you would want heating in that building. So that was one of the things that we suggested, was potentially adding a split system or two to those classrooms.
If the heating has gone out since the last report, that may be the case, but when we did the report for CBE and the mechanical, if the mechanical was operational, it was just at end of useful life. So you may have information that I don't have, but the
Gotcha.
report that we had say that the mechanical was operational at the time and was just, at the end of its
It
life.
looked like the only heat that was there was powered from natural gas at one point, and that is cut and capped. So to my understanding, and I'll confirm this, but yeah, I don't believe we have any heat in that building whatsoever. Additionally, there, like somebody mentioned, there's some door hardware issues. We only have one working door, and working is a stretch. So we will need to redo all of the front doors. I would recommend, or at least the two that, if you're on the east or west hand side. Additionally, there, to my understanding, there's some miscouth that's out, but I think we have some blown out windows that are on the north side. So if we were gonna heat that space, we'd probably wanna put in some form of either like, glazing to finish that off or, some form of whatnot. Am I missing anything else from our sessions?
The door heating, electrical windows.
Right, that would be the bare minimum.
And not replacing them.
And what's the heating that you're talking about? I just, like a heat pump or a split system is general, so it's we don't have one in here, unfortunately, it's an indoor unit that's up on the wall. And then it goes to an outdoor unit as well, and you can have one outdoor unit plugged into multiple indoor units, so you could heat 2 classrooms, you could actually cool 2 classrooms as well, they do cooling function and heating function. That'd be reasonable. And that's electric, yeah, and to my understanding, they're fairly reasonable, Or temporary. CETA can do a cost benefit analysis on it, but to get heat and the bonus of cooling in those 2 classrooms, that would be the easiest way that I know of.
Mini splits.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
So it looks like for this. That it would probably be mid-March before you could move.
Yeah, the sooner the better. I've got mold, meters and mold growers. That I'm gonna place around the building, so I know what the level of mold in the building is for the volunteers. So we'll do what we have to do.
Better.
Yeah.
I have masks in my car.
Yeah,
So the fastest thing to do is let them out, you to use. Remick and see that. That's what I think makes the most sense at this point. I think. we Go through a different process of looking for other people is just gonna prolong this.
months.
Make it, yeah, at least a couple extra months. I think we need to just move forward, use them and just get this done.
Yeah, and we have, Barry Elston prepared a, ICMA contract with Brent. So we've gone through a whole selection process. But I don't know if it has one. I think we're in good shape.
Is everybody agree with that approach?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the better, getting the volunteers for food pantry out of there, making sure that they can continue serving.
Yes, I know we talked about the food pantry building, the one thing that I would like to say is. This building didn't get this bad. Since a tree fell on it.
Oh,
It's been this bad for a long time, and it should have been handled much before. We're leaving the food pantry in this position. That's, and council.
but let's move forward.
Yep, yep.
Okay, good. Everything.
clear as day.
I was gonna say mold, but.
No. Again,
We'll get you in there as soon as we can.
yeah, again, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. And I fully hope that the food bank can reach a really quick resolution to get them up and operational in a safe spot.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is the Cruz Park and Park Element Design and Construction Service. Bruce?
Yes, we talked and you know that I am a advocate of CNGC process. We're having several successful projects going on right now. We talked about using CNGC for the Cruz park project. And I just wanted to have a little bit of discussion because one of the things that we talked about was having a landscape architect take the lead. And usually a landscape architect is one of the sites. So what I would like to do is consider opening it up to the designers. And then if, and say that preference would be for a landscape architect. But I think that we need to be cognizant that they may not have the background in managing other subs the way that, a normal designer would have. So I think that I just wanted to put that out there as we're getting ready to go out for the RFP.
Anyone have comments?
I expected that there would be people, qualified people who were park designers that would be used to working with, subcontractors that, you know, maybe thinking of a landscape designer. You know, I'm thinking of a park designer is different than a landscape designer. I don't know. And I'm just,
You might, if there was somebody who was a park designer, I agree, I think they would have those.
Designers have park designers on their staff, correct?
A lot of times, relatively contract.
No,
they're
that's,
landscape designers usually. I think.
yes, that's not, I think either. Specific park design.
Yeah,
And we can say park designer preferred. You know, so that they know when they're looking at, they're saying, oh, they really want somebody like us. So, it
You're
would be
talking about design firms, so that would include a park design firm. You use the term design firm in this.
When I'm saying, you're right, when we're saying design firm, I'm saying the lead, I would consider the lead like CETA has been in the police station.
Right. So it would be the lead would be a park design firm then, right?
Yes,
Okay.
we can request. I don't know how many of those there are that would respond. So it's just a thought that, you know, we'll have criteria that y'all will approve as far as what the relative value of certain skill sets. And so we can show you that. Or we can just go and say park design experience, but I don't know if that means that's elite. If they work with somebody else doing, they did the park portion. I don't know if they qualify as a park designer,
Yeah.
as a sub.
I wanna hear from this guy in the audience.
Jeff has the same part.
Oh, I didn't figure it out, that's, who are you?
Yeah, I've got a bachelor and master's in landscape architecture, come from that background. And I would say that landscape architects are probably, if you think of a park designer, it's a landscape architect. I mean, the ones who do Milan, who did Vietnam Veterans Park and those famous ones, those are usually landscape architects. So, but they do work for planning firms or architecture firms or others. So I don't think you have to specify park designer. You know, if you're saying it's Ford and Coos for a park and they see that, they'll be, like you said, like Bruce was saying, I think you can put that in your criteria that you want these certain things. But I wouldn't limit yourself on the announcement or the posting of it to a specific park designer. They're gonna have a landscape architect, those firms, like Cedar or someone, even an engineering firm, would have the landscape architect have that subcontractor in that landscape architect would be the one who would do that park design in most cases.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chad.
So what are we doing right now?
So right now, I think we're approving to pass or we're approving to go forward with a recommendation to pass this resolution to bypass our normal.
No, we're in the discussion.
Discussion, yeah, not that we're going.
And Jody's got her hand up. I think she was gonna say exactly what I just said.
Well, I think by all means, Bruce, speak up if I'm misspeaking here. I think what we need is sort of a direction on scope. If you're okay with, now that we've had the conversation we just had about the food pantry, I think it is worthwhile to add scope to this RFP that is architecture adjacent, so it's essentially finding a new home for the food pantry. I think that that would be a good thing to add to this RFP, a permanent home. Because it's all related, I think. So I think what staff needs is just sort of a clarification on that piece. And then also, is it okay if we release an RFP for a design team that will include park design rather than releasing an RFP for a park design?
Yeah, section 2.1, the introduction, in the last paragraph does talk about, for planning and design purposes, the entire site is approximately 1.6 acres. The city desires the site to become a park with parking, restroom, interpretive trail, covered spaces, restored landscape, public art, and possibly an enclosed classroom and food
We
pantry.
need to take the word possibly out.
Or move food pantry to before the other comma,
Oh, yeah,
so we,
yeah, so we're
as
gonna.
far as I'm understanding, food pantry will be here.
And
Yes, yes.
possibly at
Yeah.
Yeah. You okay with that?
Are you asking me?
Yes, you.
I'm fine with moving it in, including the food pantry. I'm just wondering if an enclosed classroom, you know, I would aspire to one, but I think what we're really talking about is an enclosed or semi-enclosed structure, such as a covered picnic area or a pavilion.
I think the hospital classroom is is good to keep it, because that would solve a lot, that would solve some problems of people in the community who do want a space for, education, whether it's,
And then we would look at what it's gonna cost.
yeah, and then we'll see if we can afford it.
Yeah.
If it fits the budget. But
Right.
to just
Okay,
close it out is.
You just left out, you know, a group, picnic shelter or,
We left it out,
No, I
Yes.
think
it's there.
there was a
Covered spaces.
covered spaces.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that that is too descriptive for anybody, but.
but we'll see what they come back with.
Yeah.
So the thing that this will do, this RFP, is it will let you hire the team who then a good team will come to you in a brand new meeting where they say, tell us what your ideas are. And they're gonna write them all down. And they're like, well, I'll come up with multiple concepts and you can look at each one and tell me what you like about each. So that's what a good design team will give you. And you don't have to make the decision up front what you want. You make it once you see it, which is so much easier. But that is, it's hard to pick what you want when it's just on paper. And I think that's if we can get a good design team in that everybody trusts and wants to work with, they will be able to make everybody's vision come to life. So don't get too bogged down in here's what we want, here's what we don't, because that's the design team's job, is to tell us what's good and what's not.
Well, and that's what I appreciate about this RFP is it essentially starts off indicating what our willingness to spend is.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece that was missing from the previous project, is that initial get-go of this is what we're willing to spend. And this is, I think this puts us all on a really good first foot of, this is what we're willing to spend. We have these ideas. They're lined out in that introduction. These are things that we've discussed as a community that we would appreciate being in this space, essentially. This is what our willingness to pay, for the whole willingness to spend on the whole thing is.
Yeah, I think, I agree, yeah.
The
I can
only,
go with it.
the only other comment I had besides that was in section 3, there's a paragraph, let's see if I can find it, about, input from the public and it lists, expected constituents to be interested in making comments, it mentions local hoteliers, and I feel like, I don't know if it's worth having an explanation, either an introduction, that's associated with that, an explanation as to why hoteliers specifically are being called out, for somebody that's applying for this RFP, like, because this is being funded in all likelihood from specifically restricted tourism taxes, so that the people that are applying understand why that would be,
I did, because even I
is being received.
David, and I was like, what? What's that about? And then I realized, oh, of course.
It's
Yeah.
because of the funding source, it's likely to elicit comments from that subset of the
Yeah.
community.
What section was that, Eric?
That was, I found a 3.2.3, on page 13.
Are you saying that we don't want it there?
No, I just wondered by way of explanation that either in the introduction, calling out why, what this funding source is expected to be.
So
For
maybe
this
in
is
the-
restricted TLT funds
At the very beginning.
at the very, and I was just using that as a reference, because it calls them out specifically in 3.2.3. So maybe a reference towards the beginning in the introduction of why. How this is going to be there, and so there's some reason why an outside firm from Portland or Hillsborough or Tillamook or wherever is applying for this, could understand why there would be additional comments from that sector in the community.
So
that's-
probably in that paragraph after themselves, we've talked about it being a native village, and then we talked about historical significance with Lewis and Clark. And many residents will have input because of the school. There we say something about
Potentially, yeah, just to make sure everyone fully understands where people are
funded
coming
with tourism dollars, so local, so the tourism industry will.
from. Yeah, so we don't then, so the firm that's applying doesn't have flat footed or not knowing that they're gonna receive a lot of either critical or positive, whatever the comments come in, so that they're aware of what's gonna come in.
It's a good point.
I mean, I have thoughts about that section too, but I just, and, you know, maybe as Jody's saying, we can get to all that when we get to more detail and start working with somebody. I think that there is a desire on the part of the community to have a lot of community involvement in habitat restoration and in the interpretive trail as far as the tribe and environmental and historical.
I think all of that's pretty well explained, why the community would be involved. I just thought the one piece that was found. The expected funds are being coming from.
I think that makes total sense.
I do have one question. I just read the part of the RFP where it says that and this is probably a Chris question, where the city will provide geotech and environmental services. Do we have staff to do that? It's on page 12, so it's under section 3.1, services provided by city.
Question for Bruce,
He's kind of busy right now.
section 3.1.
Yeah, page 12. I just want to get that confirmation now so that we don't come back to you later for clarification.
Did
Do
you
we
need
have-
correction, Bruce?
I'm sorry, come in and repeat.
We're
Sure.
section 3.1, why do we have the city providing with geotechnical?
Does our public works have a geotech engineer? I don't, I
No.
did, okay.
Jim
Well,
is
do we-
always used for contract.
Okay, we'll figure it out and we'll tweak it if we have to. We'll make sure that the things that the city can provide, it'll provide, and then we'll ask for them to provide the stuff that we can't. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So this will come back to the council for a final vote, those additions and subtractions.
let us mark it up based on, some of the discussions we've had tonight,
Okay,
and then we'll bring it back.
okay, anybody have anything else to say on this topic?
Yeah, I just had one thing about the selection review committee on 5.2. Who selects the selection review committee?
With the projects we've had in the past, it was the city manager. And it was 3 residents, I think 2 staff members. Was what was selected. If the council wants to make that selection, that's perfectly fine. But, the people that are selected, it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of proposals are all like this. And then there's an interview process and then the discussions on the selection. So it's time consuming, but I believe we went with 3 and 2, 3 residents last time.
So you put out a call for people to,
No, we didn't. Actually, I went to, I'm trying to remember who the third was, but, let's see, who's, remember?
I was on the selection committee originally
Yeah,
before I was here.
yeah, Les Sinclair, David Benita. We've had different people at different.
What if we had a selection committee that you appoint that goes through the applications and then comes up with 3 finalists and the council interviews those? Have you ever tried that approach?
There is a specific approach that you need to follow. And that doesn't, I don't know, I've asked Jody whether or not that would comply.
Yeah,
And I don't know if anybody's interested, but I think.
yeah,
I
you
feel
can.
like that. Okay, okay.
well, I just sort of feel like a lot of times the selection committees, we find out later, months later, who's on them. I mean, I don't think that's.
Well, let's
I don't think
let's
it's very
communicate that better.
I can make sure we send something out on who it is.
Yeah,
That's
just
easy.
more transparency in how you're picking, because right now, I mean, I'm always asking, well, who's on that selection?
Sure.
But you're thinking more hiring.
Well, for hiring, but
Yeah.
for anything, for any of the things, I would like to just have more transparency on the selection.
But ultimately, whoever who selects who's back in front of you.
Right,
Yeah. The city council, yeah,
Yeah.
must approve of that.
okay,
Okay.
okay, so we'll get better communication with who the selection committee is. Okay,
So do we also need to have a discussion about the, CMGC?
About the what?
At least the resolution for the CMGC, is that a conversation that we need to have now?
I think that would help, yes. The CMGC model, for lack of a better word, is referenced a lot in the RFP, so if that's still the method that council kind of wants to go, that's fine. But if they don't, we'll have to take all that out of the RFP before we release it.
It's the same thing that we did with City Hall, police station, you guys did. for these, right? Yeah.
Personally, I'm fine with that.
I mean, it's worked
It's got some advantages.
very well, but yeah,
And we're giving a specific dollar amount, so
Right.
that's helpful.
yep,
Yeah.
It's all hard bid.
yeah. So everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I think, like I said, starting off on a better foot of this is our willingness to spend, I think that's completely changes the mood of the way this goes in, and I think fixes, so whether it's CMGC or hard bid, I think to me is a coin toss in this particular project, but if we starting off with that budget is what is huge.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Ready to move on?
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you, Jody. Okay, next we have the chamber contract recommendations from the July 8th, 2025 minutes. Yep, I just talk us through this.
All right. And not been, council, so on the December 18th retreat, we had kind of rehashed what we'd gone through the July, work session, we talked about the, chamber contract. So, I think council agreed that Mayor Knopp and I would meet with the, chamber to review the current contract. But what we're kind of looking for, I think, is what would the council like us, kind of what are the main points that the council would like us to talk to them about? And before you is what we discussed in July. And these are just some of the points. There was no consensus vote, et cetera, at that point in time. We did do.
That's the, analysis information, the 1, 2.
Yes, so this is kind of where there was a lot of discussion about it. There wasn't really agreement. We did do number 5. What happened was there was a little breakdown in communication, so I met with them, we met. What happened was we agreed that the financials would come to me before that came back through you, or came to you. So I'd help work with Jim and Amber, that still didn't happen, so Jim and I talked, and we're gonna make sure that that does happen this next time. So I think we'll work through that, but, other than that, I'm not sure kind of what you would like, Mayor Not deny, to make sure happens inside the contracts. There are actually two separate things. So there could be, you could be a visitor center contract, you could have an EMO contract. So we're here for guidance.
Okay, just one thing I like, this is nitpicky, it's number 5.
Okay.
That's what happens when you're married to a retired CPA. Under general accounting practices, I'd prefer to see GAAP, general accepted accounting practices, to change it to that.
Okay.
That I wouldn't have to do all that. Why? Well, we're here for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Something I noticed, did you want to go on, you were checking in there?
Can I go?
Yeah.
Is what, I've been thinking a lot about this, and this is what I would like to propose. I think it's, probably, it might take a minute to get there. But, it should go pretty quickly and we could still get it done by this budget cycle. I think that we need to restructure the current contract. So it's actually 2 contracts. One for the visitor center, because that's pretty cut and dry. It would include a COLA piece. A 3 or a 5-year contract on that. And then, a budget from the chamber annually would need to be presented for the visitors contract. 3 to 6 months in advance, probably 3 months, but enough time so it can get to a staff member, the staff member that'll be representing, the funds. And, so the staff member can actually make a recommendation to council. Then on the DMO work, I believe that should also be a standalone contract. With a set amount as set per staff recommendation to council. It should be written for, okay, I already said that. It would include COLA. It would be a contract that renews annually. And in order to renew that contract, and it would automatically renew as long as there was a marketing budget, a marketing proposal actually put in place 3 months in advance, specific marketing proposal budgeted. So we knew exactly what those funds were going to be for. That would also be presented to that staff member. And-
Also, I'm just saying, so that'd be similar to what we're asking for, having 3 that's online.
Yeah, except, submit to city staff a recommendation to council instead of just straight to council.
Okay.
And then 3 months prior to, and then the DMO work would be updated, to the staff member, probably semi-annually, maybe just annually, as long as everything is going, instead of having these every 3-month conversations. If something came up that, the chamber found that they wanted to do, and it was outside of the budgeted amount that we had given them, they could then go to TAC and ask for the money, but they would need to give them a proposal on why they needed it, how much it was going to cost them, and they would need to follow up with takeaways from what happened. With whatever project it was that they decided to do. So a lot more onus on what's on the chamber side of what's happening with those funds. And 2 separate sets of books. One for the visitor center, one for the DMO. So I know that would be a bit of a burden on the chamber initially. But then going forward, it should just go pretty seamlessly. I think, I'm pretty sure the visitor center kind of runs pretty operational. It's just.
So it kind of sounds like the proposal is to essentially make the DMO a department of the city, that they're at the annual budget process, that they present just like Public Works presents, or somebody presents on their behalf
No,
in that same fashion.
it would still be, the chamber would still be their own entity. So, because they would have a contract. So it's different, but they would still need to provide something showing what, a marketing proposal. I mean, the city is providing the money. And, I have questions about how funds have been spent on, just myself personally. And there haven't been we aren't getting takeaways for that money, it's being spent, but the clarity of place, we can use that as an example. 36 grand was spent on that, and basically it came back in a nutshell, and it was a great process. But in a nutshell, it came back and said, you need to focus on your tourists, and you really need to work on your park. We already knew that. Restructuring the membership for the chamber, $11,000 was spent on somebody to do that.
That's nuts, that's separate, so different. Not the funds.
Not that I would negotiate terms of a contract in a public meeting. But you could say, essentially I think what you're looking for, Councilor Hammond, is basically transparency for the marketing plan. So what you could put is something like, approval would not unreasonably be withheld or something like that. So really what you're doing is seeing. Yeah, so then it doesn't look like it's the chamber would be a division of those.
Yeah.
So who is the staff member with the city that would,
Well,
It has-
currently it's me, but. Well, I think going back to also one of the other things that we discussed at you had discussed the tree is coming back in February and bringing all of the TLT and showing you kind of where we've used them and where other jurisdictions have used those funds. And then potentially looking if we can add some additional FTE, part-time FTE that would help run the TAC committee and then could also monitor this contract. And because after the Coos is built, you're gonna be looking at some significant funds there that you would be looking probably to do some kind of grant program, they would be running.
We talked about that in the retreat, having someone that would kind of oversee. the-
Right, and so I'm coming back to you in February with a proposal and breakdown of those PLP.
Oh,
But what you're proposing, Deanna, is a set amount for DMO, a set amount for this person.
Correct, the visitor center is right about 205, I think, is that right, Joe? About 205. And then you've got what, we'll just say 550, so there's an extra $335,000, $40,000 left. How much of that is needed?
I think the ratio is flopped on that.
So it could be,
Yeah.
I'm throwing numbers out there, I don't think it is, I think I feel pretty, anyway. So,
205, 956, and 572.
so it is 205 is the annual budget for the visitor center, and 316 is the budget for,
Oh, it's 366.
oh, okay. It wasn't. I struggled, very well. So, yeah, and having a full breakout of what the DMO work, what exactly that entails. How that budget is come up to, so opening it up and showing what, for transparency reasons, what that is. And then, but we could decide on an amount also. And then if there are things that the chamber needs and shows that they can do, then they go to TAC and they ask for the money, with a full written proposal.
And that's really interesting, but explain your rationale just so you can understand exactly why you want to break the two budgets out.
The visitor center, pretty much runs itself. Well, first of all, we've run into the problem that having the two married to each other is just a kerfuffle.
You need to break them.
Yeah, so, breaking those apart from one another. And having the restructuring it into two contracts forces the hand of two sets of books. So they're just not.
I think we pretty much forced Jeff into doing those books separately. That's something that we've done in the last 6 months.
But they're not separate, because if you look at it, they're still on the same set of books, so when you look at things. They can get, just like Eric's saying, oh, I think maybe that's flip-flopped, and you wouldn't have that. It would truly be separate. This is the visitor center. The reality is the visitor center comes in once a year. This is, we had a good year, here's some highlights, and they're done.
And we still have the issue that there are salaries that a percentage.
What's the difference?
Yeah, some of it's information center, some of it's DMO work, some of it's chamber business.
Yeah, but rather than having separate employees, they get essentially the economies of scale that are being combined, that you can, and that was my understanding in 2018 when this contract was finally initiated after 9 months of negotiation, that was why rolling in the visitor center in order to achieve that economies of scale, that you have one employee that can spend 10% of their time, not every month, but whatever time they do some DMO work, but then also continue to do visitor center work or vice versa.
Could you percentage those out?
I guess my concern about it just is there's been no transparency about what's what, and there's just, numbers on a income statement. So I don't know how that would work.
Well, and I think that, you still, even though there's contracts in place, I would think that you would still look at that. the employees being fluid.
In our case, right, I will like, Chris is I think it's 10% emergency management and 90% public works administration. You know, I have my public works people are can be put into different funds, so one person can be split, but in our budget document, we always show like where, Darrell Walker would be split between. So that's how we show, you know, how he's charged out.
But just because they're charged out like that doesn't mean that maybe one whole month they have to work just on VM.
Right,
stuff.
it's over a 12-month period.
Right.
But it would be nice to see that breakdown. That's something that was one of my comments that was not in here. And I don't know if we must still talk about where Deanna's taking this on this. I have a couple of other specific points, but.
Yeah, but that is the journey that I think we should go down. I think that it would really help clear a lot of things up for everyone. And having that marketing proposal in place prior to the releasing the funds,
You're talking about like marketing plan.
a marketing plan, a budgeted marketing plan. So it is spelled out. There is no question as to what they should be doing. And, I mean, there can be a 10% or whatever gap you can have a gap in there for essentials that come up that you don't think about. A small reserve, and I don't think that the chamber needs to hold on to reserve money either. That's just my opinion. I don't think it's necessary, but so that's what I really think I think in the long run, it'll take a lot of it away from the city, I mean, from council. The chamber can still run their own show and just have to turn into, staff, into the staff person. How things are going, I mean, you could put something in there that says every 3 months, just we want something that says, oh yeah, these things are all going well and this didn't work, so good. Whatever, or you could just do it biannually, you can even do it annually.
So one of the comments that was in here, I think you mentioned it too, is approval of the marketing plan. Like I don't have any heartburn over presentation of the marketing plan prior to stuff, but approval of marketing plan, I feel there's currently on council, we have some people that are knowledgeable enough of a marketing plan to be able to look into it and understand what's happening with the marketing plan and what that means. But I'm concerned about putting approval in the contract that say 3, 4, 5, 6 years, whatever down the road, you have 5 other counselors that don't know marketing at all. They might know the community, but they don't specifically know marketing. And then it's just, they're required to then sit and approve and go through all of that as opposed to a presentation of that marketing
That's
plan.
been one of the issues for years, is, the council has not necessarily been able to deal with that, just like we're not really able to deal with all the reporting that we get and all the statistics that we get. Having a staff person, I think, does solve that. Then you've got someone, consistently who keeps it on, a consistent, track. And, it's not changing with every new board and every new council, and, so I do like that thought about it. But, yeah, this whole conversation came about just because, especially as far as reporting, just how can we provide oversight over this? It's challenging.
Well, you can't provide oversight over what you don't know.
Yeah.
If you're not getting a marketing proposal before the funds are being given, then you don't even know what you're trying to govern, and I think that's a big.
You know how the Oregon Department of Education ensures that all school districts get their audit in by December 31st? If you do not get your audit in by December 31st, you do not get a check on January 1st. Yeah.
And that would, kind of be, I mean, I would think that that would be the same with this. If you don't have your numbers in by this time, you either need to have it in by now, or somebody's gonna be telling you somebody else is gonna make a proposal like the following year.
Anybody else have thoughts on 2 contracts?
Well, I
Advantages,
never even
disadvantages.
considered that, it's really interesting, I mean, I.
We've gone back and forth with that over the years, I think, hasn't it? It used to be 2 contracts, then was 1, and I'm not sure if it's
Well, they
gonna.
used to be totally separate, the visitor center funding came out of the general fund from the city. And that's why it was folded into the general contract, so that
Jim, do you want to come up? And the reason I make people come up is so that we can hear, it's not.
So, if you go back before the contract, the city was paying out of the general fund to fund the visitor center services. So they were separate, and the DMO work was strictly for the marketing program. When we worked on this contract and negotiated it, we folded the visitor center into the DMO because it was tourism related work. And that relieved the city of $160,000 out of the general fund. So that money you guys could use for whatever you choose because it was general fund money. And that's when it was folded in. And we really tightened our belt at that time to make that all work. And so the growth over time to get to where we are now was really just kind of go back to where we started because we took on the visitor center service. At that time though, it was all one pot of money in one bank account and it wasn't delegated, and that became part of the contract, was to break those out. So that's why we don't report on the chamber work, it's just the DMO that we're reporting. So the financials you see are just visitor center and DMO marketing and staffing and the administrative costs that go along with that.
Tim, do you have any thoughts on 1 contract versus 2?
You know, I mean, between the 2, they are over, I mean, it's with the same entity, but they are 2, I think, very distinct. You know, 2 very distinct things. So, you know, monitoring them. You know, if you violate something in the visitor center, and technically you're in violation of the entire contract. So I don't know. I also think the DMO is probably far more complicated than the visitor center. So the visitor center, it'd be very easy to just, you know, look at it and go. Again, the majority, I think, of the council's heartburn is with regards to the DMO portion of the contract, at least that's what I'm picking up on. So I think one thing we will have to do is really, we have to go through kind of the language again and really kind of we clean it up. I think the marketing portion. I think it's the approval of, it's probably a little over, it's probably heavy handed, but you have to ensure that it is actually presented. And the way to do that is, my mom used to say, is grab them by the walls and their hearts will follow. So, you know, that's I think that's your key. So there's things like that. But do I have an opinion? You know, would I die on that hill between 1 or 2? But I do think that it would be far easier to manage the visitor contract if it was just on 1. So.
Yeah, I kind of, well, I know, I had never really thought of that, when they were separate was way before my time, so I wasn't even aware that they ever were, but I really like that idea, yeah. I do, because I just think it would make it much easier to understand what's really happening. And I've been pretty distressed about the DMO and what's actually been accomplished, even though I hear the words, I can't see it on paper, and I'm very confused. And financially, I can't see it, so it's very confusing to me. This would be much clearer.
And I think it would be good for all of us to see that marketing proposal in writing, like it's tangible. We know what's happening. And it's not that we think you're still doing anything wrong. It just, I think it'll be much easier for you to manage too, Jim, and not having to be before council every 3 months. To, would be helpful as well.
I would point out too, that we switched to a 2-year marketing plan, even going way back. We were doing a 2-year marketing plan. And so my concern with the proposed 1 year is that will be repetitive if we keep doing a 2-year plan. But for planning purposes and scalability of things, we need to plan for a little longer period of time. Like, because you come up with ad campaigns and you don't just do 1 year, one thought and one idea. You want some consistency over time with that messaging, so.
But I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Continue the same marketing plan, we made a few changes. And the recommendations that we made previously, we asked for a plan that included key goals, strategies, marketing messages, within a 5-page executive summary, along with a marketing budget. So, you know, I was just trying to get it down to something really manageable, for us to digest now. I mean, now we're looking at,
You know, we're not really in the negotiation process of all this yet. We were forward to doing that and getting it all sorted out.
And that's why
But certainly, I think the key component would be agreeing on how you want it presented, what that looks like, so that we all understand what is expected through, whether it's the whole project or contract, 2 different contracts, however that shakes out. Clear expectations need to be laid out so that we know where we go. Because the information I have is what's in the contract, and that's what I've always been trying to present is what's required of the contract. So that's what I've been trying to give to you guys. And there's not an agreement on what that is or how that's presented.
So,
For what I,
so
it needs to be agreed upon.
is it worthwhile for something in the contract to be stipulated on titles of like very specific reports? We want the P&L this year to this year, and having that stipulated explicitly in the contract for what's presented from the chamber to council, saying these explicit reports with a bullet pointed list, and this is what is gonna be
I think,
these reports.
well, I think if you do the explicit title of a report, but then we probably have to work together to find what the format is, right? So you say an income statement, a balance sheet, et cetera, right? So that's pinned out, and then what does it actually look like? And on the marketing report, you know, it's, I think, to Gary's points had, what are the specific goals, et cetera, then that's, you know, those are the things. I don't think you say, I need a 3-column, you know, income statement, 4 columns, you know, down to that level, but I do think you need to state the actual statement.
Yeah, because currently the contract is.
Correct. That is correct.
Very gray,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there hasn't been a lot of.
And the other thing on the contract, we can say that, and then we can just do an addendum that will, you know, show examples of what we do.
so this idea of having a staff person really does change the game. Because then we have a staff person recommending to us, and we just do have one neat little package. That.
That's probably gone through, it's from staff person through Tim, been vetted.
I mean, one of my other comments that we're missing, and maybe, I mean, that was one of the bullet points was, actual financials from the previous 4 years. So that, but that was based on councils, you know, who have no historical concept of where this has been. All we do is see a current year to date.
I think we should at least have year to date and previous year to date. 4 years is overkill.
Yeah.
I think that it takes it, I understand what you're saying, but I think that takes it a little too far.
So when
I think that's fine, and yeah, talking about a staff person who's got some perspective, when we're changing every 2 years.
Yeah, when I present the budget to you, it has 2 years past, year past, budget. This is essential, so you can at least see kind of a trend, but we'll work through that.
And we don't need pennies.
What's that? No?
Pennies.
Gives you that false sense of accuracy.
It's true.
Okay, any other thing?
Plenty of direction.
So I think we have plenty of direction.
One thing that I would like to see is when this is all, I wanna make sure that we have all of our recommendations, whatever it is that we're putting together. That the chamber board is copying on this.
Is what? Well, that would be Jim's responsibility to communicate that chamber board.
I'm fairly certain that we'll have board members part of the negotiation.
Right.
Of all this,
Yes.
so.
I just wanna make sure that.
Right.
So Aaron, Knopp and I have get together for, we'll set up some meetings and Jim and the team and we'll go from there.
Can I ask a procedural question?
Mhm.
So according to the contract, I'll talk about it, Martin.
Thank you.
According to the contract, we're supposed to have a 90-day notification to your way. And we have not received that from you guys. This is fine, because we're just talking about what everybody wants, but when will we get that? And who are we negotiating with? Bruce?
Isn't
Bruce
that,
and council?
isn't the 90 days, it's
Like
like
cancel.
cancel the contract, but the cancel isn't being, contract isn't being canceled.
Mm-hmm.
It would be being renegotiated. So the negotiations would happen and that's the time when you can come back and say, I agree with all of this, but I think we need to tweak this and I don't like this, so can we line this out? So there's a negotiation process because it also says in the contract that as long as the chamber and the city agree that the contract can be changed. So that's why it would be more of a restructuring instead of just hard canceling it, saying this is what we're gonna offer you, because then there's even more negotiation. There still would be a negotiation.
Although if we're going to 2 contracts instead of 1, is that a revision or is that a?
I'll have to talk to my attorney.
You have an attorney you can talk to? She's smiling.
I guess I'm just asking because this is from July 8th. It's, I didn't change. I mean, look again, right? I mean, it didn't need to take this long.
We've been busy. We've been busy.
It's
I
taken,
get that.
it's taken a lot longer than since July, right? This is,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
right, and so. So now we're gonna try and. See what we
So are we meeting with Bruce? Are we meeting with Bruce and a council member?
Tim and
Tim, of course.
Tim and myself.
And you, okay.
Is that okay?
That's fine. I have concerns about things that are being asked to, well, we will be asked to, put into metrics that I would really like Gary Obiena to be involved with, because you ain't gonna be able to demonstrate what is being asked of us. There's the stewardship, we need stewardship information, and then we need to prove it that it's working. How are you gonna do that?
Well, it's still gonna come back to the entire council, so our marketers will have, but.
Okay?
Yeah, I agree.
I'm just warning you, stuff I saw in here, it's not very true. It's not.
Thank you.
And we shouldn't have quit it to be.
Okay.
I have one more.
Okay.
Street specifically contract, I just want to remind everyone, the lodging partners in Cannon Beach asked for this tax to be placed on them, specifically for marketing. So however this negotiation ends up going between the chamber, the mayor and finance director, keep that in mind, that this is a tax that the city did not have. And people that are collecting that tax asked to be taxed more to specifically do this, what's being worked on under the contract. It's not something that the city decided, hey, we want to increase the tax. It was asked for by the tax base to do this. Just not a normal
You guys.
situation in anywhere in the world for somebody to ask us to tax me more.
And I think, thank you for the reminder on that, Eric, and I think. If I were a hotelier, I would be happy to know that somebody was looking over what the marketing plan actually was. And knowing that my dollars were being used. But
It's our, the customers.
the customers are, yes. The people who, yes, are customers.
Okay,
Okay,
got it,
got it.
okay, thank you, Jim. Okay, so I'm gonna close the work session and open the special meeting. And, the only action item is consideration of the minutes.
I have one comment. It's just possibly just a question, December 9th, minutes, pages 4.
Just that. Go ahead.
December 9th minutes, page 4 of 6. As close to the bottom, make sure I'm doing this right, both myself and Councilor Hammond asked for clarification on due dates for the loan. And I just want to make sure that that's actually what that's saying, because it said Ostrander clarified and then later said Hammond clarified.
So you have both names in there.
Oh, no, it's. When I first read it, I thought it was that I made the clarification and then Hammond made the clarification, but we both asked the question. Tim is who provided the information.
Oh,
Clearing it up. And is that what that's saying? I just wanted to.
so you're talking about the paragraph that starts with questions were raised.
Yes.
Okay,
The last sentence.
My thing is jumped. December 9.
So you want to change Hammond to Collier?
No,
It probably was supposed to be Collier.
in place of,
in place of both Ostrander and Hammond. Because he's the one that
Oh.
made the clarification,
And I did confirm.
and we both
Okay.
asked the questions, there's 2 independent questions, and then he's the one providing the information
They
to,
confirmed it, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah.
Got it.
got that, Jen? Okay,
that was the only thing I thought that
okay,
was
anything else?
confusing.
What?
Which meeting?
Thursday, December 18th, the last page, 6 of 6. I wish you would just take out where I said, oh my goodness, it just makes me sound so dumb. When I was in the second paragraph, when I talked about, birth control for female health, period, not possibly delivered through treated apples. I have no, that was a joke. I mean, I don't know how they don't do birth control that way. They do it with darts, actually.
I'm surprised they did.
But just where it gets, I sound like a witch. It makes an apple. I just rather just take out the apple thing, because that
Will
just
do.
sounds idiotic.
Anything else?
With those changes, I move to approve the minutes of December 9, 16, 18, and 19.
Sorry.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good at order.
I have something.
Okay,
Okay, so, we have a meeting scheduled, I believe, Jen, in, February to talk about acquisition of the watershed, right?
Let me pull up, I believe it's on the February work session. Let me double check my little cheat sheet. Yeah, I have it scheduled for February 10th.
Okay, I would ask if we could have, Karen Labonte speak at that meeting as well as Daniel Ware. Both who have done a whole lot of work and discussion on acquisition of the watershed, just so council can hear from them about what's been done and what is done in other communities, just to give us a little bit more background and education. Is that possible?
I mean, if that's what you guys want, I do believe Chris has already been working with Daniel, but I'm not positive on that. But yeah,
Karen.
we can.
Karen,
Chris,
Chris is not, I think having Karen here would be, not to say unnecessary, but I feel like if Chris is working with them, we've heard from Karen about it in the past. And Chris is taking the ball and running with it right now.
I would like to hear from Karen as well. Because she has been working on this so really hard for a long time, and I just would like to have her historically fill in it.
So both, for all three people.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty okay with that?
I'm uncomfortable if we're asking her to come in, either asking her to volunteer it or if we're paying.
We're not
we
paying
have
her.
public works director.
She's willing to.
If she come willingly, we can have it.
Yeah, she's not.
As a member of the public.
Right.
Yeah, it's, that's fine, but I just.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all three, one is a volunteer. Okay. You're gonna get paid.
Well, Daniel, where would be the volunteer? She do, but sure.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on, for the order for you?
I don't.
Thank you for this.
Oh, I have a question. The Circle at Sunset, who's doing the work there? What's going on? You know? It's Tappan. I saw Tappan instructs there. Is that for us or is that for DOT?
That's for us, yeah, it's for us, the Waterlands from the start of the Spruce Pier, like, in Beach Elementary down this road, off that way, so that's where they're stating their heavy equipment.
Okay, alright, and yeah, I just had a bunch of last meeting, like, what's going on? They cleared a bunch of brush. They're laying out, gravel pads and stuff, okay. So it's Tappan doing the work for the background, correct? That's the staging, okay, cool.
Who's doing the work up on the highway, up on Camden Beach Hill?
Oh, it's been doing it throughout the entire town.
Oh, that's the utility contractor.
Yeah.
That's doing something, starting at the junction.
Well, this has like been going on for a while by where they were, I guess, going under the road, they've been doing some trenching there. I'm sure it doesn't have anything to do with us, right, because that's a state road, but. They're just sure taking their own sweet time there. And. The acoustics in here. What, is there anything we can do to help people be able to hear more?
See, we are getting that. Well, yeah, even though when I watch a meeting, of other, the other committees on YouTube, I can hear them fine.
People have said that, right? That
Yeah.
if you're trying to listen to it live, they just give up.
Yeah, when I was on Zoom at the last meeting, I heard nothing, if any public, heard any public comment.
Yeah, that's usually one of the problems.
Yeah.
Well,
And then people in the audience they can't hear us. So these are recording for YouTube, right?
Well, it's Zoom too.
Oh, yeah.
The same system.
But it's not amplifying anything we hear.
No.
I just wonder, and they started laughing. Because they started like,
Yeah.
But how it's-
Okay, so,
So I honestly, audio is the most important portion of it. Is there a different system that's not the Owls that maybe has a crappy camera, but you can plug in 4 microphones or 5 microphones? Like we had a Tux in the previous chambers. Is there a different system that isn't the?
There are, the problem is we have to tear down every time, so it's very expensive. And how much money you want to spend, the other part, like, in here, how many more months?
Yeah.
Well. But yes, there are ways we can look into doing things. But I'm not gonna have it straight back.
Well, I think it's just it's all right, we move over to the.
Yeah.
Signal.
Okay, we'll just speak louder.
Well, we're also when someone's making a public comment, could they have a microphone? To speak into so that people on Zoom can hear them?
It looked like a purple mic system, right?
Yeah, I think that, I think if we, maybe we just rearrange and we set this up, set up the podium substantially closer to the microphone.
Sample, yeah, right on top of this.
Yeah. We'll try.
I mean, maybe a little uncomfortable in here, but if it works to get the message out or.
Yeah, we'll try that. Okay. So you're.
Tomorrow morning at 10, I will join counselor, the county with counselors.
Yeah.
In this room, you must be here or be on Zoom, otherwise you miss it, because there's no recording. So be here.
And you guys are gonna bring us all the tea at the next meeting, right? So we know what happened.
Yeah. Okay, I, thanks.
No, once you said it, you can bring it and present what the public had to say at the next council meeting.
For, at good order, you could do a little recap. Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be a good idea. Let's do that. Okay, Murphy is having a town hall, this Saturday at Warrenton High School. There's a special half hour where local leaders get to come at 5:30, and then the, public town halls from 6 to 7. Wyden is coming to Seaside High School, January 23rd from 12:30 to 1:30. And, want to remind everyone that we have our Saturday trail cleanup this Saturday. We're gonna meet in Dakota Creek Park and kill blackberries.
Because you're doing a good job.
Yeah, we're fun. Anything else? Anyone?